Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today at the webinar to discuss how AI scheduling can help us to build a more resilient healthcare workforce. A very warm welcome to all of you guys who have taken the time to be here today. And I know that there are a few people from the States are joining. And a lot of people from the States have asked me before, what is rostering? So just want to address that question early. And so rostering is widely used in the APAC area. So pretty much it just means scheduling. We will be using both words so people are feeling more being inclusive and also just making sure like everyone's on the same page. My name is Sunny and I'm one of the founders of RosterLab. And my background is in user experience, where I focus on simplifying the complex rostering workflow into something that's user-friendly and that actually works for everyone. It is my great pleasure today to have Mike Peterson join us today at the webinar. And Mike is the Associate Clinical Manager for Radiology at Wanganui Hospital here in New Zealand. And he is also a registered practicing radiographer. Today, we are here to share how Mike's department moved away from manual rostering to automated rostering, why the old way wasn't sustainable, and what kind of impact that change has brought. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're responsible for?
Thank you, Sunny. Yeah, so I've been one of the managers here in the radiology department for about 2 years. I have a background that's entirely clinical. I don't have any IT background at all. And saying that, I was doing mostly general X-ray, CT. I've done a lot of tutoring for new radiographers, and I dealt with a bit of PACS administration on the side as well. My main job at the moment is the day-to-day running of the department, obviously rostering now, lots of leave, compliance matters, committees, heaps of projects and meetings just all the time, many meetings. Initially, we used to do rostering on an Excel spreadsheet. We're talking about 2 years ago now. And it would take the lady that did it back then about a week to write a roster for 12 weeks. And I had neither the time nor the patience to commit to that every 3 months. So that's how I ended up finding you guys.
Okay, thank you, Mike. It's just like many clinical leaders. You went from scanning patients to all of a sudden you're staring at this Excel spreadsheets and start worrying about how to fill the shift gaps and how to build like a compliant and safe schedules for everyone to work for. And it is a huge responsibility, and the complexity of that work often stays hidden away from the staff members and the head of department. So for our agenda today, over the next 30 minutes, we will walk everyone through what is the hidden admin load and opportunity cost for building and managing the roster, and how does automated rostering reduce that time and cost for Mike's department. Secondly, we'll be talking about how did Mike improve operational efficiency by consolidating multiple spreadsheets and systems within one platform with better visibility of staffing coverage, leave information, and all the rules goes into it. How did you adapt to the planning changes quickly within our system? And lastly, we'll be talking about how does better scheduling reduce staff fatigue and improves fairness, which leads to a more engaged workforce and team. We'll show you what this looked like in the Wanganui Radiology. Mike, before you became the manager, what was your perception on rostering or scheduling?
So as I was a staff member before, I just found it was very difficult to navigate. That was probably the best way to describe it. We had the Excel spreadsheet that was uploaded onto a workplace OneDrive that you'd have to access via your phone if you wanted to see it at home, for example. You need to go through this two-factor authentication process, sometimes 2 or 3 times, every time you log into the OneDrive and then every time you want to access a file on the OneDrive. So very tedious. So most people got a diary and would just scribble in each day what their duties were once the roster was published. Obviously that comes up with some problems. Some people would make mistakes on this day or that, and you'd end up having these conflicting rosters all over the place. Other people would just print the Excel spreadsheet, and then over time they would cross out whatever and swap with that person, and so it'd just be a mess. The other thing, once you're in the OneDrive, you'd have it's a workplace OneDrive, so it'd have all these other files, and so you're trying to find your roster, you're sliding through, and then finally you find that Excel spreadsheet, you click on it, and I don't know if you've ever tried to look at a big Excel spreadsheet on a tiny little phone. It's like you're zooming it up, you're trying to say, oh, where am I that day? And it's just not the tool. Like, Excel's great on a desktop, but not on a phone, man. It's rubbish, but not the right tool for the job,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, that sounds quite like quite a headache. So could you please give us a little bit more context about your department rosters? Like, what's the process look like, and what kind of information do you have to consider? What makes a radiology roster or schedule so difficult?
Yeah, sure. So Wanganui Hospital is not a big hospital by any means. It would be considered a small radiology department in the grand scheme of things. But in saying that, we do have 42 imaging staff that we have to roster, 6 clerical staff. Of the 42 imaging staff, there's 30 of them are on a shift roster. You got about 10 in each of the modalities, from CT, MRI, and general, and each of them have to be rostered basically to provide a 24/7 service to the hospital. Throw into that, you've got the part-time mix as well. So you've got about 10 staff that are part-timers, and they have historical agreements in place with how often they work, or which days they work, and how long on those days they work, and there's another factor as well. Everybody has different skills, such as you might be skilled in MRI and general, so you'll be on both of those rosters. But maybe you're only doing the MRI weekends, but you have to do other stuff in general during the week. So you just got to balance all of that kind of stuff. We got 2 MECAs. That's another thing. So the unions have a MRI contract and pretty much everybody else contract. So we've got to balance those 2 things as well. So lots of balancing. You've got to balance all the staffing peculiarities with the service demands, and that's that can take a lot of time, man. I'm sure if there's any other radiographers out there, they know exactly what I'm talking about, man. It's pretty complicated, and it was all done inside the brain of one very smart lady that works here. She's a MRI radiographer, so one of our most highly skilled and most expensive staff members, spending all that time on writing a roster instead of doing the work that she's more productive in, such as MRI.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because rostering is effectively like a very complicated optimization problem, and it is very it takes a lot of time to actually consider all of those details. And I believe she did a great job. Another thing about radiology rosters is there are so many modalities that goes into the roster, and then there's so many things that you have to consider as well. Were there certain parts that ate up most of your time, such as, I don't know, like if people wants to change their shifts all of a sudden, they have their own preferences, or all of a sudden they want to go on leave. Do you have any examples for us?
So initially the 12-week roster was written, right? Take a whole week, and then she'll publish it, and straight away the staff members, as they're writing it in their book, they realize, I don't want to do that on that day, and so they go through all their swaps, and it's like they just butchered all the work that she spent a whole week trying to get perfect, just to flip it around to do what they kind of want to do on those days. So that was always kind of disheartening. I've only manually written one roster, so I can't imagine doing that for years and years on end, like she did, and just seeing your work just get ruined right in front of you the week after you publish it. But after that, there was the leave management was another fiasco, mate. We have a hospital kiosk system that manages all the leave, sick leave, annual leave, all that kind of stuff, and it's a notoriously cumbersome platform, man. Like the calendar is not an easy thing to manage, and so the old manager would write up on a wall planner in the office. She'll just manually write in all the different leave that people have applied for, and there's different rules we have around how much leave we can give off at any one time. And so people would have to come from wherever they were into her office, check the leave calendar, make sure there's not 3 people off already, and so then they'll say, okay, I'll apply for these days. Once they apply for it on the kiosk, the manager would have to approve it. She'll then have to manually write it on the wall planner, and then upload it onto the OneDrive at the same time. So it's just, there's so many little things. There's just
Yeah,
very
you basically
tedious.
have to be a superhuman to consider all of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mate.
Was there a specific day that maybe your worst rostering day, or maybe a time when the system really broke down with all of those going on?
I just remember often the big thing would have been the start time conflicts between staff. Like some people, hadn't updated their diary or put in the wrong entry, and that was probably the main source of problems. There was a couple of times the OneDrive would crash, or you couldn't access any of the files on there, or that was inconvenient. But I wouldn't say the old system we had ever fully broke down. But the main pinch point was just how much time and effort was required to make sure that it didn't break down. You know what I mean? Like everybody's checking this, and everyone had different roles, and they'll just be spending a lot of time making sure. Even down to the individual, you'd write in your shifts on your diary, and then 2 weeks later you'd have to, before you start the next week's work, you'd go check, make sure everything is everything matches, cool, I'm good for next week. Just time, man. It's so much time wasted on the old way.
You're constantly at a state of putting off fires while you have all the other patients to see as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit about numbers and how many hours were you actually spending on building a single, because I know your roster is a 12-week roster, right? The cycle. Yeah. How many hours did you spend on that, and how did that add up across the year?
Sure. So the old lady should spend at least 40 hours a week. Sorry, 40 hours, which is a whole week's work, right? Making a 12-week roster. That's at least. Sometimes some periods are more complicated than others, such as the period we're in at the moment, where there's people going off on leave, and so that's at least 170 hours per year spent from one person just writing a roster, right? And then we talk about afterwards, once it's published, everyone butchering it. We estimated roughly 5 minutes of one of the manager's time is spent on every shift swap, whether it's trying to translate what it is they've scribbled down on this little form, or say something isn't quite looking right, so they have to go discuss something with another staff member about making this shift swap okay. So when I pulled the numbers, we did this research project about it all. We pulled the numbers, and there were 425 shift swaps in the 12-month period prior to us implementing RosterLab. At 5 minutes each swap, that's 35 hours each year that managers have had to spend just editing the roster.
Swaps.
Yeah, just editing the roster. It's insane when you put it into these big numbers. You think, man, how did we waste there's nearly a whole week gone on just changing the roster, right? When I think back to it, I'm just like, man, how do we do that? So much time wasted.
Yeah. Well, from a department perspective, I guess, what does that time cost mean to you? What wasn't getting done while you were stuck building the rosters?
That's really hard to quantify. I mean, what we do now, we're doing a lot of projects now. We've done service expansion and everything, and we've been able to put in a lot of time into those projects since rolling out RosterLab. Now, at the time, like, what weren't we doing? I don't know. Like, yeah, we were busy doing rostering, so it's hard to say. Like, oh, we didn't even have the time to even think about doing all these other things that we've implemented since starting with RosterLab. But would we have tried to tackle those projects anyway? I mean, maybe. Would we have been able to put as much time into those projects? Definitely not. But so would the outcomes have been better? Probably not. But in saying that, given that it was such a massive job, we had to split the duties up between a lot of people. So we had the roster writer, who, she wasn't a manager, she was just a very competent MRI girl. Then we had the charges would deal with all the swaps, so the unit charges would deal with all the different swaps for their areas. And then the radiology manager would deal with all the leave. And so there was a lot of chefs in the kitchen all trying to cook, and there was these strict as processes you had to go through to make sure you weren't stepping on the other guy's toes. And I mean, they did it quite well back then, but it took all that time. I think that's the main thing here, right? Like, there are lots of time spent on just traditional rostering.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a lot of time can spend on, like, it's easily can be lost while doing the admin work. I know getting approval for new software, especially AI-powered software, isn't always straightforward. What was the process look like for you guys, and how did you make the business case?
Yeah, so once I picked up the rostering duties, we just tallied up all those times, right? How much the old lady spent on it, and we just say, okay, 170 hours multiplied by my hourly rate. That number ended up being 3 times more than the cost of your product per year, including the time that I'd have to spend using your product to make the rosters. So it was just, we presented it as a cost saving, and they just straight away, it was like approved. We're quite impressed with that. But after that, we had to go through some little hoops. There was the data and digital team had some concerns about the fact, back when we were setting this up, it was 2023, and AI was this brand new thing, right? And a lot of people had all these concerns about it. And so the data and digital guys were a bit worried. But once they figured out that it was not a software that we had to upload onto the hospital infrastructure, that became a lot more, they were much more open to the idea. And then there was the privacy lady as well, the privacy officer for the hospital. She was worried that there was going to be some AI taking personal info off computers and all this kind of stuff, which is based on a lot of the fears of AI back then. Once she came to understand the product, it was, oh no, sorry, she was a little bit. She was much better with it.
So you can see the trend that it's getting a lot, like, people are taking on AI as a concept a lot easier now. So once you move to automated rostering process, what has changed, and how long does it take now?
The initial move to RosterLab, I had to spend a lot of time building the rules with Dan, your guys' CEO. He was I think that one of the only engineers back then. We spent at least 10 hours on Teams calls with each other, just discussing the peculiarities of radiology rostering in itself, but then also how to write these rules with RosterLab to generate radiology compliant rosters. And then so that's 10 hours with Dan. I was spending at least 20 hours on the side without him, doing other stuff, trying to make it look right for us. But that was just the initial setup time investment, right? And once that's all done, it's literally just a click of the button. You push generate. It took us back then about 40 minutes. It's getting a bit faster now to generate these rosters, and then I would play around with it afterwards for about 3 hours for each roster. So just maybe I haven't written a rule for this thing or that, and I'll just juggle it. But that just goes to show, like, if you put in more time right at the start, make sure you don't have to. It ensures you don't have to do that much juggling afterwards. But the way I've got it, I spent about 40 minutes generating 3 hours, juggling. So we'll say 4 hours all up. That's, yeah, I went from 40 hours to make a 12-week roster to 4 hours. It's massive. I've got over 150 hours a year extra to spend on all my other stuff that I need to do. Yeah. And there's these cool things we did as well. Like we had these delays. I asked the executives here to approve some weekend service expansion recently, about a couple months back, and they're delaying getting that response out. And it was either going to be a yes or a no. Yes, do the weekends. No, don't do the weekends. But whether we rostered for weekends had massive implications on the staff as well. Like there's all the union rules that go into weekend rostering, and so because of those delays, I was starting to get a bit frustrated. I was like, man, I need to know the answer, but because I'm running out of time to get this roster out. And so I ended up just generating 2 rosters. I made one for if there was a yes answer and if there was a no answer. And I just had them both there. I just copy pasted one onto Excel and I just waited. As soon as they gave me an answer, it was literally, I just copy pasted the one roster that was generated earlier onto RosterLab and then just push publish. Boom, done. Now, I would never have been able to do that if I had to spend 40 hours writing a 12-week roster. Like that would be 80 hours, 2 whole weeks just on 2 options. Yeah, mate, no way. But 8 hours with RosterLab, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, if it means I can get a roster published, without any more delays. But yeah.
Well, yeah, changes and these kind of situations always happen, and like it always create a lot of stress for the roster maker, the schedule maker, to deal with all these like last minute changes, right? So yeah, like getting 2 different scenarios out is pretty good. Before you made the switch, Mike, how many different systems or spreadsheets were you actually using to juggle and manage all the rosters and stuff? Because you mentioned quite a bit on you had the kiosk system, you have OneDrive, you have different system to manage leave.
So
Talk us through about that.
Sure. Yeah, there was the hospital kiosk and its cumbersome platform, the wall planner that was the manual representation of that kiosk. In radiology, there's lots of imaging systems, and they all have strict preventative maintenance schedules and engineers that need to be booked for jobs. So each unit charge would deal with that, with their systems, right? And they would be like dealt with the way that unit charge liked dealing with it. So some would just write it up on a whiteboard. Others would do it through their calendar app on their Outlook. What else? Yeah, so that's not very transparent. Like you can't. It was very hard to know. What is this room going to be doing, or what is that room going to be doing with availability wise, right? Because it was all just locked away in some charges calendar somewhere. Then the OneDrive, Excel roster, and then all its little paper clones floating around the place. There was the manual shift swap sheet that people would. There's one sheet that would go just stay in one spot, but it would often float around the department as someone in CT wants to do a swap, so it's in CT, but nobody knows that. So you'd end up trying to find this blooming shift sheet all the time, and that again was handwritten, and so some people's writing. I don't know if you're seeing the handwriting of medical professionals. It's pretty rubbish. Then there was a giveaway board as well. So if you didn't want to do certain duties, you would just write it up on this board, and then people would come along and put their initials next to it eventually. I think that's about it. And just lots of different ways of managing staff and systems.
Does that mean when you were taking over the process, the handover process was also quite painful because there were so many things to look at?
Well, yes and no. I've worked at 3 different DHVs in the country, and we're all kind of doing it the same. There are some things that this hospital might do better than others, and so I had a little bit of that perspective, but coming into management in Wanganui, I'd already been working here for about 2 or 3 years at the time. So I knew what the systems were here, but I could also see how cumbersome it was. That was the main thing. It was just we're spending too much time on this. So let's find a better option.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess one of the most frustrating things for the managers to is to deal with like all the major changes. So things like all of a sudden you are expanding your service, people come and go. There are a lot of part-timers that people have to like manage or restructures, all those like big unknowns. Has that ever happened to your department, and how did
Yeah.
you guys deal with it?
Yeah. So since starting with RosterLab, initially we were doing shifts and a lot of call to cover that 24-hour service. Since then, we've expanded staff-wise and service-wise. So we now do night shifts and more weekend shifts. So all of those things take. You've got to somehow figure out how many staff you need to provide those extra services, balancing the MECA rules. So that's where I was able to use RosterLab. It was quite handy, I could just insert fake staff member 1, fake staff member 2, and give them certain skills and then just test out different staff and skills and duty combos to figure out what's the right balance. Like, do we need 2 more CT staff member, or do we need 3 general staff? And then try to figure out the most efficient combination. And it would only take me an hour to, like, it wasn't a perfect roster every time it would generate with these fake staff members, but it was good to have an overview of where the gaps were, and maybe I needed to think about getting an extra staff member for this scenario. And so we were able to figure out a good balance, and then we just went to the business case guys, and they all approved it, and it was sweet. It's a tool. We can use it in multiple ways. Like, we used it for scenario testing. It was awesome. So.
Oh yeah, so it's very agile to all the changes that is going to happen or has happened to the department. That's cool. Like, what about day-to-day operations? What has become easier for you or more efficient for you to like to deal with since the switch?
Oh yeah, okay. Heaps. Oh man, I got to go through it all. So now we have one source of truth. There's a common term in radiology when it comes to like packs and reports, where they all go and where they all generate from. But for us here, we got this one source of truth roster now, where we generate it and it just auto populates out to all the personal apps of the employees. We have these multiple viewing
different
displays.
type of displays.
So your personalized one on the app, it looks different to how there's the shift view that you can look at. We set that up on all the computers in the clinical areas, because you can see the week by week what the availability is. And then there's the other view, which is like, I find it really handy. It's the probably call it the more admin overall department view, where it has just everything in one big view. So when you change it on one, it'll change across the whole thing. So there's no conflicts with people's diaries, for example. And then another cool thing was when we publish a roster, you can get your partner to subscribe to your calendar, right? Like your roster app, I guess. And so their Gmail or Apple Calendar will like auto just populate with their partners, shift duties. So that was often a lot of people ringing up their partners. Oh, what are we doing on this day or that day? But now it's just like, it's just on their phone now. It's easy as. But so that was a cool little benefit for the staff. But the one-click side of it is pretty handy too, man. Like, you got the one-click access to your app. You got one-click access via the links that display the different other views. Shift swapping now. So shift swapping is managed through the app. So if you don't want to do a certain duty, you go on, click swap or whatever, and then you can see what other people are doing. You can propose a swap with that person, and it just takes managers out of the equation. It takes all the illegible notes written on pieces of paper. It's no longer a concern. So now, basically, at the moment, I approve all the swaps through the app. I just go and I can just see a whole breakdown of them. Or I can just see clearly who wants what. And there's like a little alert that says, "Oh, no violations with any of the rules that I've set up." So, yep, sweet, approve. And then on the flip side, we were testing your auto swapping function, which removes me completely from the equation. Whereas if you have like skills and you're not violating any rules or whatever, then if you want to swap with so and so, and you're not violating those rules, and that just happens automatically. Updates across all the auto populates across the app. Yeah, it's just give me 35 hours for 425 swaps. Gone. Like I get that 35 hours back. Sweet. I'm so happy, man. And then on the actual roster as well, you got a little notes feature underneath every duty allocation. You can chuck a note for the individual thing that say someone's got an appointment for 1 hour at 11 o'clock. You just type in appointment at 11 o'clock till 12 o'clock, and then everybody just knows because it's across the whole platform.
It just helps like communication across the team very clearly, right? Like, and whenever you have anything on, it can be communicated to different levels of staff, like team leads who are managing it. If there's something going on for the day, and everyone will be notified as well. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the management side of the thing. What about your team? What kind of impact has centralizing everything into one system had on communication with staff?
Yeah, like it's very transparent. So there's no misunderstandings about start times now. The only reason someone will come in late to work is probably because their alarm clock didn't go off, and can't use the roster as a reason now. But on the flip side, I chuck all the machines on RosterLab as well, so I can, whenever we have engineers booked or physicists booked for the imaging systems, that's entered in on that that machine's line for that day. So again, people can come, they just open the roster, they can see who's there, which machines are available, and we can easily make a plan for the day. There's no ambiguity anywhere. It's that what I call it's a modern solution for our department. Like it comes with all the little creature comforts that we're all used to. All the things I said before, about one clicking and all that, swaps and that's all as much a benefit for staff as it is for the management. So yeah.
Okay. And I know staff fatigue is one of the most critical things for clinical leads to manage. And it also keeps your people engaged. It improves patient care, quality of patient care. And unions also have specific requirements around it. So how do you manage that within RosterLab with all the rules?
Yeah, that was all the initial work that I put in with Dan, right? The 10 hours and the 20 hours by myself. It is tricky to get it all in there, but you can. You can just write the rules. Say, for example, like with night shifts, there's sleep days that have to come after them, and then a certain amount of off days depending on how many night shifts you do, and they can all just be plugged in as rules or patterns on the platform. There's union contractual obligations, about the frequency of weekend duties, pro rata, for example, hours for part-timers, stuff like that. That's all you can just plug it in. Like you got to figure out which rule to write and then write it, and then you can individually tweak it for so-and-so employee that has a different arrangement. And then the other thing as well, like you get these system alerts. So every time you do a manual change, you can, and it violates a rule, it'll pop up with like a little red thing or a little green flag or a little yellow flag saying, hey, this rule the system prefers you do this or that, yeah. But you can manually override it if there's a mutual agreement or stuff. Yeah, it's pretty handy.
Okay. And I guess I'm wondering, have you seen any changes of, I guess, the perspective in AI technology among staff members, or being rostered by AI?
Yeah, going back to what I said before, but initially in 2023, everyone just didn't know about AI, right? They were like, oh, they either were scared of it or just didn't know at all. But now, 2 years later, everybody's using ChatGPT. Everyone, I've got mates that use AI trading bots and other mates that write music with AI. Like, so AI is just everywhere. And I just happen to use it for rostering. So I think over time, people have become more, just in general in society, have become more open to AI. There's probably some fears still out there, but no, I haven't come across them here so much.
Okay.
So you did break up there. I think, did you say
question?
just advice for other healthcare people?
Yeah,
I'd
just
say
advice.
if you're going to use RosterLab, put in as much time as you can possibly commit at the start. Like get those rules right from the beginning. It'll save you tweaking time afterwards once you generate a roster. That's the biggest thing I can say. And then just enjoy all the other benefits that you get from it.
Yeah, I think it's more of an investment from the start, that because you've been running the system for like, if you're running the old system for a long time, then maybe making changes is, it sounds scary, but it is an investment from the start that you can enjoy, as it gets better. And also, I've heard a lot of different versions of interpretations about, what's supposed to mean for the certain union rules. And I think, I guess, does that like make it more straightforward for you guys in terms of interpretation?
Yeah, I ran into that problem early on when I was in the development phase. I had different interpretations of things, and then others would have different interpretations. And then you get other people's just their, I don't know if it's kind of their philosophy of rostering. Like some managers are more totalitarian, if we want to call it that, where you get what you're given, kind of. And then there's the approach that I'm kind of going for, which is more, I'm trying to balance preferences. So people can input their preferences into the app for whatever day in the future that they want to do such and such a duty. And then when it comes to generating that roster, that AI will try to balance service demands, everybody's skills and staffing situation, but as well their preference. And that brings up other questions about fairness and what people. We've done a whole research thing on that. You can find that online if you want, where we go into that. But yeah, and saying that you can make RosterLab produce rosters along both philosophies, right? You can do the strict, like this is what you get approach, or you can try doing it the way I'm doing it as well. So it's quite a flexible tool, man.
So what is the one thing from the old ways of doing things that you never want to go back to?
Oh man, all of it. I'll never go back to roster. If I don't know, you guys just disappear or whatever, it's just I'm giving up roster. I'm not doing it, man. Like if I have to go back to Excel and try to think and waste all my time trying to balance all those things, no way, man. I'm not doing that.
So it's just a lot of time consuming and mental load that goes into it, I guess, like, because you have to constantly worry about what people think about, like, whenever you're publishing a new roster and what are they, how is it like impacting their life? It's a lot of things that you're taking on as a manager. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Mike. Before we move on to the Q&A, I just want to make sure that everyone knows how to take the next step. So if you're curious about how much time that your department could potentially save or what other costs that you could benefit from, we have a quick ROI calculator. We will be dropping the link in the chat. And if you would like to see how RosterLab work for your department, we're open for quick discovery call or demos, and yeah, we'll be dropping all this link into the chat. And thanks, Mike. I'd like to turn things over to the audience for some questions, and if there are any, let's see. Okay, so one person is asking, I'm curious how teams are actually using the product day to day. Has anything changed in how people organize their schedules or planning since adopting it?
Well, so yeah, prior to publishing, they'll be thinking about what they need to do in the future so they can put their preferences in. We get about 70 to 75% of the preferences met with the current rule setup that we have. And then on top of that, people's partners can subscribe to those rosters as well, so they're in the loop. Has anything changed in how people organize their schedules or planning since adopting it? I guess
you
it
mentioned
just
something.
happens a lot more efficiently. What were you going to say, Sunny?
Oh, I guess you mentioned something about like they can now sync their work schedule to their personal schedule. Like, do they probably they find it's easier to plan their life?
Sure, yeah. And there's less ambiguity around the whole thing. So yeah, I don't think anybody has those little diaries in their pockets anymore. It's all just on their phone now. So
okay. Another question is there room to grow it? Start with one group, such as medical, and grow to other healthcare teams, such as nursing, physiologists. They might have different union rules and etc.
yeah, you guys could probably answer that too. But I mean, from our perspective here at Wanganui, I started it in radiology. We've got 3 wards using it. We've got mental health teams using it now. We've got schedulers for the whole hospital using it. Like, it's just, yes, it works for different clinical teams as well as clerical teams. So, I mean, you guys could probably speak to more applications that you guys roll it out in.
So, from our perspective, union rules are pretty much like in our app, it's described as a natural language, right? Like you can describe, okay, so this is the contract rule. Like you need 80 hours per 2 weeks for each different stuff, and you can describe a fatigue rule within our system as well. So yes, we can cater to a broad range of different rules as long as you can describe it. And it can be shift specific as well. It can be more than unions and anything that goes into a roster that you can describe it with our system. And I guess does it sync potentially to UKG? So roster swaps go directly to UKG. So at the moment we don't integrate with UKG, but there is a way that we can make it work. So this is also a path that we're actively exploring, and the easy way is to export our data and then import it to UKG. So at least you will be having all the roster data ready for the payroll. I don't think you guys use UKG, like.
Nah,
yeah.
We do manual timesheets. Each staff member has to write their own timesheet, and then it gets approved by management, and then that gets sent after approval to automatically to payroll, who then pay.
Yeah. So, well, I guess in short, we can do different specialties and like cater different types of sets of rules within our system very easily. And move on to the next question. How long did it take you to fully set up your rostering system?
It took, at least, it was at least 30 hours, even more. Like, it's hard to know. Like, once you got the initial rule set up, you can play around with all types of like color schemes and how you just like display your roster and all that. But at least 30 hours. I probably should have spent more time initially, but in the end, our service went through some major changes anyway. So I had to then redo it because we're doing 4 extra weekend shifts, night shifts, removing all the call. So like there was massive service changes. So we're doing a rebuild right now with your engineers, and that's as initially with Dan, I spent a lot of time, but then I think Dan figured out radiology rostering and has rolled it out to a lot of other radiology departments around the place. And then now with the other engineer I have, it's like I don't even have to do anything pretty much. He does most of the work. We have a call every now and again. He says, "Oh, I've changed this, I've changed that, I've changed that," and we generate a roster. And I say, "Oh, can you change this one little thing?" And then he goes away and comes back. So way less work now than before. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess when
budget
you
at least.
started with
So
yeah, I guess when you started with us, we were just exploring radiology rosters, and now we have done a lot of radiology rosters across the different countries as well, and the process has just become a lot better. And I guess to answer that question, it also depends on your specialty. Some rosters are naturally a little bit easier than others to set up, and it all depends on going down to the granularity of what goes into it. And I would probably highly recommend people are committed to the process and trust the process, understanding how it works, and because changing systems is always going to take a bit of time. But since you are making rosters regardless, setting up is just part of the rostering process, right? And the next question, does the system notify staff of available shifts if a gap has been identified? If so,
yes.
a staff member rejects a shift, does the system auto-assign it to another staff member?
Oh, okay. So it does alert staff. So when I get an open shift, I can say it's a CT shift. It's only available to CT staff members. So then all the CT staff members will get a ping on their phone and will say, "Oh, there's a shift. Do you want to pick it up?" And I can also say it can be available to the CT staff members, but not the CT staff member that is working the opening or the closing shifts for that day. So any of the other CT staff in the middle can switch to it. And if you approve or decline it as a staff member, it will auto-populate across the roster. Sorry, if you approve it, it will update the roster. If you decline it, nothing changes. You stay on whatever duty you were doing before.
Yeah. So from our perspective, we do notify staff whenever. So we have open shifts, right? You can open up a shift, then distribute it to the right people, which means the people with the right skill, and you can choose the task as well. So it goes down quite, you can customize the open shift quite a bit. And then if someone accepted the open shift and then all of a sudden changed their mind because something going on in their life, they can reject that shift, and it will automatically open up the shift for other people to pick it up. The next question, has RosterLab previously been used by any companies for managing traveling staff members, such as working at multiple different locations across a given day or week?
For us at Wanganui, we have satellite radiology sites, 2 of them in the regional back in country, way up the road, 2 hours drive. And we have fixed staff members that work there, but while they're on leave, we have to organize travel for the guys here to cover that. And I just treat it like another room, and it's just different start times. So I don't put specific start times on those shifts. I just call it the tie happy shift, and people know that if you're traveling to that, it's a 10 o'clock start because that's the time you rock up, and after driving for 2 hours. But you can probably answer that as well.
Yeah, so we have rostered for some flying doctors as well. So they often have to travel from one place to another place. We don't really cater like if there is a time zone difference, but if it's just different locations and shifts starting at different times, we can cater that in our system. And I guess Chris has answered that question. It is a cloud-based software, and yeah, it is hosted on AWS. You can find our payment subscription like on our pricing page, and it is by staff on roster. So if you have 20 staff, then it is the amount of money times 20 staff as a subscription. Because we believe, like as you have a bigger department, it is harder for the algorithm to solve as well. And then especially all the rules that going into it. So it just adds to the complexity. How does the system help with leave planning?
Hi. I was talking about that earlier, but I can say it again. It's on our hospital system. It's not going to be the same everywhere, but yeah, it's people will apply for leave through the staff kiosk. That's just not a user-friendly tool from a management's perspective. So once I see a leave application, straight away I go to RosterLab and I'll go to that period and I'll see who else has already got leave. And if I say, yep, they can have it, then boom, I'll push approve on the kiosk system, and then straight away just highlight that line, that time frame, and just say, yep, that person's on leave. And then everybody on their apps, they can see if they push the who's on leave button, they can see a calendar of all the numbers of staff on leave for any given day. And then we've got these little impromptu rules in the department that you can't have more than 3 people off at a time prior to publishing a roster, because I just need the grease in the machine. Then the people to be able to roster in a compliant way. So anyway, they'll see that straight away. They'll say, oh, there's already 3 people on that day. They don't have to come and find a wall planner in my office or anything like that. So they'll see 3 people I won't even bother try to get that day, and then they'll see a big gap on this side of the roster, on the calendar, sorry, and then they'll just apply for that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot more efficient with leave.
Yeah, so that's from the staff point of view, right? Like they can see clearly like how busy is the day, and then kind of plan their leave smartly for their life as well. And from admin point of view, we have a leave management system where you can see all the leave coming through, and then you can approve it. You can mark it to pending, and like reject it as well for whatever reason, and put it into a comment so people know the reason. And what is coming is we're going to have leave planner in a calendar view, which you can see on the granular details on, okay, so this is the leave that this person is applying, and what other preferences has this person got that's clashing with the leave, and how many FTE worth of leave that you have approved for the week, and etc. So that is coming. Yeah, I think that is all of the questions, and thank you so much everyone for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Mike for sharing his experience so openly. And feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any follow-up questions, and we're here to help you get your time back so you can focus on what actually matters. Thank you so much, and hope everyone have a great Christmas break.